how and why did you get involved with the League of Women Voters in Boulder?
Well, the reason I got involved in Boulder is because I had been in the League since 1972 in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I joined that league. The first time I went to a league meeting, it was when we have two boys, and they were both very young infants. And I thought, I've got to get out of the house. And so I went to, my husband came home from work, and I went to an evening meeting, and I was just overwhelmed. The people there were so intelligent, and I thought, oh my gosh, there is no way I can deal with this. So I didn't do anything. I just went to that one meeting, and that was the end. And then when our youngest went to preschool, I thought, well, there's a day unit. Maybe I'll try that. And so I did, and from then on I was hooked. So, and I guess it was because for me, it was intellectually stimulating. I was still home with children, and I could do as much or as little as I wanted. When the boys were in preschool, I could be home by noon. When they got home, when they got into elementary school, I could be home at 3 o'clock. And I could do more and more in the league as they got older and were more independent. So that's kind of how I started.
Wow, this almost sounds like a career choice.
Yeah, well, it kind of was. Yeah, I looked around the neighborhood and thought, oh my gosh, I'm the only one that's not working. So.
Well, I'm sure your community in Fairfax appreciated that. Could you discuss aspects of your background that might have influenced you to join the League?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. Well, I just wanted to know about the community when we moved, to Fairfax and also to here in Boulder. I wanted to get to know the community and know what was going on, and the League seemed to be a good way to get to know people who were involved in the community and kind of hear what was going on from their perspective.
Could you tell us a little about the mission of the League and how it operates?
Well, the League is a nonpartisan organization, and we basically if we take positions on issues or ballot issues, but we never take positions on candidates. And we study issues, and the only way we can take a position on a particular issue is if we've studied something similar to that and have a position on it. And then we look at the position carefully and say, all right, does it apply to this ballot issue? Can we support it, oppose it, take no position because we have no position ourselves? So it gives the League a lot of credibility when people say, oh, the League is supporting this issue or the League is opposing this issue, because we've studied it and we're not just jumping off the track, so to speak, to support anything and everything. We've studied it, and we're not afraid to say we don't know, we don't have any position on that, and so we can't take a position. So it gives us a lot of credibility.
How do you go, from an idea that a member might have to the actual action?
Okay, that's kind of a long. Well, the League is what we call a grassroots organization, and in fact, this month we're about to have what we call program planning, and it's a local in fact, we're having two meetings this year, one in Longmont and one here in Boulder, and people from the whole League can come to either of those meetings, and it's like a brainstorming session. We talk about what our positions currently are. Are there any things that we want to take action or that we're interested in that we don't have positions on that we want to study? And that's how a study begins. And so if enough people really want to study an issue that we don't have a current position, it has to be government related. That's the other thing. It can't just be anything, but it's related to government. And if the group comes to consensus or general agreement that this would be a good topic to study because we don't have a position on it and we feel like we need to be able to take action on it, then we study it. And the study probably lasts maybe a year to 2 years, depending on what it is. And we form a committee, and that committee does the study. Then the committee goes to we have, I believe it's 5 units now, And the committee goes to each of those 5 units and gives a presentation. And then we have what we call consensus questions. And those consensus questions, if the group agrees with them and there is consensus, then we take those consensus questions and write a position based on those consensus questions. So that's kind of, and then once we have a position, then we can take action. So that's kind of how it works.
And let's just follow right through. And then
Okay.
what kinds of actions can be taken?
I guess, well, a couple of things came to mind. One of them at least I have been very involved in campaign finance reform. And we did a petition drive at the state level to get it on the ballot. In fact, 2 petition drives to get it on the ballot. One was a statute and one was a constitutional amendment. And the state league doesn't really believe in putting more things in the state constitution. So the first thing that was done was it was as a statute. Well, we did got it passed by 60 some odd % of the voters, and the legislature the next year just decimated it. So we had to go back and do a second petition. That was at the state level, and now it's in the Constitution. At the local level, the history of it is back when Tom Eldridge first ran for city council. Normally, candidates would spend as much, not more than $10,000. And his campaign, it was a special election, and his campaign raised over $40,000. And there were a group of us, including Mark Rosen, who later became mayor, and I'm trying to think, Alan Feinberg was one, and the league certainly was concerned that this is a small town, and we didn't want to see a lot of big money going into elections. So through a long process, and I won't go into the whole thing, but it took several years of kind of trial and error, and this group met, and Pat Johnson was another one in that group from the league. And we decided that we were kind of doing it on a kind of a volunteer basis, and we thought if we really want this to continue, it needs to be change in the city charter to make it a law that they can't, that certain things have to happen. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, I wonder if we could do public financing in the city of Boulder. And so we met that Saturday, and I kind of brought it up and thought, well, people are going to, say, Sue, it'll never happen. And we designed it so that, in fact, we do have public financing, and it passed with over 60% of the vote. So that was exciting. And now there's a bill before Congress called the Fair Elections Now Act, which is very similar to what we're doing in Boulder right now. So that's exciting. I think that's kind of my baby. And then I guess the other thing that I have been involved in, and I started right away, is one of the reasons we moved to Boulder was we wanted to be able to walk everywhere or have good transportation. I didn't want to be dependent on a car. And so the league had a transportation committee. We called it an alternative modes committee. And something came up on the ballot early on when I was here, and I think I was on the board. And the transportation committee, or this alternative modes committee, didn't respond to tell the board how they thought we should, proceed on this ballot issue. And so I thought, well, we need to reinvigorate that transportation committee. So I ended up chairing that committee. Then I realized that the money was coming from the state. So I thought, well, we need to have a state transportation committee too. So I did that.
Looking at Boulder, and I'm not sure if you could note this from the 1990s on, but what role did the league play in relation to women's participation in the political process?
The league basically, it helps you develop leadership skills, I would say. That I think when I started out in the Fairfax League, I was shy and kind of sitting there listening and so forth. And as I did more and more things, I became, more sure of myself, I guess. And then when I became president, I think I realized that, I did have power and I could, get thoughts across and so forth, and that the Board of County Commissioners, they were supervisors there, would listen if I spoke in for the league and that kind of thing. So I guess, you know, it's a wonderful way to develop self-confidence, I would say. It's interesting because, you know, people would say to me on occasion, you know, you really should run for city council. And I'm thinking, as I thought about it, I thought, I don't want to be on city council. I really can do more on the outside than I could on the inside. So it's worked out very well.
Things I was going to just say, ask you about rather, bringing in new members.
Oh boy.
What is, you described sort of maybe a more prototypical member that you might have, but in the roughly 20 years you've been here, how has the membership gone?
Well, I think we've maintained it, I would say.
Wow.
But the membership is getting older, and if you look at the demographics, people who, I worked when I got out of college, but once I was married, I didn't work. And those were the women, and you know, they're still in my age group, that continued on in the league. And because it was so intellectually stimulating, I think, it wasn't like sitting and playing bridge or, you know, eating bonbons. You felt like you were doing something constructive to do, and it was intellectually challenging. But in this day and age, when women especially, get out of college and get, you know, I mean, they both, husband and wife, work. And so, you know, if that had been my case, I probably wouldn't have gotten into the league, to tell you the truth. I would have been exhausted when I got home from work, and if you have a family to deal with and so forth, outside activities just are not in the cards. So it's been very difficult, I would say, for us to get younger members. Every time somebody young comes in, we all kind of cheer and say, what can we do to keep this person? But I mean, I can understand. When we've looked at the university with the students there, thinking, you know, maybe we could do something with them, and we have a student membership rate and that kind of thing. But I mean, I remember being in college, and I just didn't have time for any outside activities particularly. So who knows? But I'd say that's one of our problems. And we've had wonderful we call them membership chairmen, who deal with that. And any suggestion that we get from national on how to encourage members, that person, you know, those people do. And our board has spent a lot of time talking about it. But you know, in the end, it's difficult, I would say. So we'll see. I have my fingers crossed that the league can continue.